My name is Craig Wright. I am the creator of Bitcoin, and some of you know me as Satoshi Nakamoto. Well, it went through a big roller coaster. So the first part was sitting there waiting, hearing that there's a verdict. That was itself difficult. So just hearing there's going to be a verdict which could be against me. So the roller coaster started going down, and then it started to be read, and I heard no partnership, which was sort of the first bit was great. Then there was conversion, so that was a little bit, but it's only to W and K, which I'll get to in a moment. And then it was sort of heart in mouth type scenario. Very simply put, the court has determined that no partnership. I am without sort of any partners in the creation of Bitcoin. Relieved, incredibly relieved. I mean, it's been a long time here, and I'm looking forward to going home. I've been here in Miami for 2 months, and it's been 2 very stressful months, and I think I've probably aged 3 years, but anyway. We're going to start getting everything aligned and back in order, and we're going to bring law back into digital cash and make sure people understand it's not about cryptocurrency, it's not about gambling on price go up and manipulated markets. It's about a system that is a commodity information exchange that has value globally, because people can send and receive micropayments, that people can remit money across borders. I want to make a corporate structure. So there's this thing called conscientious capitalism. I'm a big believer in it, and I want to build communities of people who will not only sort of be improved, their lives will have some more meaning, more objective, but who will be able to return money to help with the projects we're doing so that we can build more. So the thing is, you take the people on the bottom rung, the people earning $2 or $3 a day, and you try and build them up to where they're earning $10 or $20 a day. And yes, you take some of that, and people go, oh, that's terrible, you're taking from these people, but you're not. If you take the difference here, and they make $10 more after you take a little bit from them, well, that's called support. And we're not doing this to beg for money from others, we're doing it to build something sustainable, something that becomes global, that people want to be part of. I invented Bitcoin not to make another money laundering, drug sale type system. I did it to be different. I did it to have micropayments and basically a low-cost digital cash system, which was the thing that was always the holy grail of the industry. So I'm going to bring back the idea of digital cash, not cryptocurrency, digital cash. I'm going to allow people to send fractions of a cent. And by that, I mean, once we get it scaled properly, 1,000th of a cent will be a valid transaction that people can send. The whole point here is to actually allow people to have control of their own money, to have a scenario where, for instance, someone from a Central American company working up here in the United States as a maid can remit money to her family, not once every 3 months, but any time she wants. They can have an app that can authorize payments, can view things, can say, yes, I'm paying for X, Y, and Z, but not that. So if a kid's wanted to buy certain things for school, that could be ticked off as needed. Not sending money to them, paying for things remotely. And that's what this is all about.
Andrés Rivero of Rivero Mestre. You know, thrilled. It was a very difficult case. We're very happy to have won it for Craig, and you know, just trying to act like I had been somewhere, but very happy. You know, I've tried 43 cases over the last 35 years, and many of them in this court, including the longest trial in history of this district. And I would compare the complexity and difficulty of this case to that other very long case tried over 11 months from October of 1991 to August of 1992, and equally satisfying to win it. You know, listen, the bottom line is Craig Wright is a complex guy. He didn't invent Bitcoin by being like you and me. And we had to deal with things Craig has said, things Craig has written over a long period of time, and interpretations that were put on them by the plaintiffs, and that was complicated. And I think that this team, especially Amanda McGovern and George Mestre, did a fantastic job of putting it together. Beating a fraud allegation is absolutely critical. The fact that this jury found that when Craig Wright testified there was no partnership, that he was telling the truth. The fact that the plaintiffs were claiming $600 billion, and obviously this jury just needed to compromise and reach what ends up being really a symbolic amount just to get it over with on 1 out of 14 counts. All of that is really, really significant. In terms of whether we'll appeal or not, there are arguments both ways. We'll have to consult with Craig Wright and make a decision. It is a total win, so that would be an argument not to appeal, but there are reasons to do so, so we'll look at it. It's extraordinarily gratifying to win this for Craig Wright and also on a professional basis, and to have had a fantastic trial partner like Amanda McGovern.
My name is Amanda McGovern, and I am a partner with the law firm of Rivero Mestre in Miami, Florida. I was so profoundly satisfied with the ability of this jury to really separate the wheat from the chaff with respect to the case that the plaintiffs tried and the claims that they brought. So I was so incredibly happy, but not sort of in a jubilant way, but rather I thought, okay, justice was served with respect to the core claims in this case. I think that when you are working with a client like Dr. Craig Wright, who is creative and complex in American litigation, oftentimes the person is tried in the lawsuit as opposed to the elements of a particular claim. And in this case, that's exactly what the plaintiffs did, and it made it particularly difficult because they tried the man. And this particular man is very complex. We introduced him in the trial to the jury as a genius. We believe that's true, but it's sometimes very difficult to understand a person like Dr. Wright, and I think that's probably what made the case more complex, because the claims themselves were not complex, but the personalities were. Well, I think first and foremost, the fact that Dr. Wright is now recognized as 100% Satoshi Nakamoto is the #1 victory in this case. This is someone, as we all know, who takes his work extremely seriously. It hasn't been an easy road. I personally admire sort of the survivor nature behind this kind of creativity, because it's weird how the world has a difficult time accepting, innovators. I don't know if it's because it cuts against the norm. I don't know if it's unfamiliar and scary. I don't know, but it's hard to walk alone. It's very difficult to walk alone, and so that's sort of the #1 win. And then, of course, more importantly than anything, it's also the fact that there's, Dr. Wright was sued for fraud. He was sued for punitive damages. He was sued for civil theft, and the jury rightly found that none of that was so. None of that was. It's not even just not proving your case. It never should have made it to the jury in the first place, and I think the jury's verdict, demonstrates that. Well, I mean, I think yes. It's just such huge numbers. The plaintiffs in their closing argument sort of had pre-typed what they were asking for. And it was difficult for the plaintiff to even articulate, the lawyer for the plaintiffs, to even articulate what that number was. It gets confusing. Where's the comma kind of a thing. So it's just huge numbers. And that alone is, I think, unprecedented. But I also think you've got to sort of separate the fact that you're being sued for a lot of money and look at the fact that you're actually being sued for fraud. So that makes it even more significant, I think. Right now I can't comment on any of the decisions that are going to be made going forward, unfortunately. We're still, obviously, we just found out yesterday, so I can't make any comment about that. Well, I think essentially what the jury found was that W&K, which is a Florida LLC, had interest in intellectual property that that it should retain the benefit of. Our position in the case from the beginning was that W&K has its own, has the intellectual property. So I don't agree with a determination of conversion, but I imagine that what the jury found essentially was that there's rights to intellectual property that W&K, should rightfully retain, is really the way I view it. We've been waiting for years to get to a jury because this case was complex and there were a lot of rulings along the way. So I guess for me, the primary takeaway is that the bedrock of our legal system, the jury system, is what we wanted, and we prevailed. And I admire this jury. They worked hard, they deliberated hard, and they came to a decision which I believe was sound. So I'm a believer in the American justice system after all.